Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Ukulele on the Ground podcast. My name is Aldrine Guerrero. Joining me are Mr. Aaron, the voice, Nakamura. Say what's up, Aaron.
What's up?
And Mr. Kahai, the legend, Fergan. Say what's up, Kahai.
What's up?
Gentlemen, I do this so that people don't, if I go like this, Aaron, the voice, Nakamura, I mean, no. not this
There's
guy.
an ankle.
Yeah. Mike is a great voice, but he's the voice. Okay. So I jumped the shark there for a little bit, but welcome, Mr. Mike Odo, Magic Mike, Fingies Mike. What else do we call you?
That was weird when you said Mr. Mike Odo. It's like that's not right.
Magic.
Yeah, there's
Mr. Funk Master Magic. Magic Mike Odo. Funk Magic. How are you, man?
Not too bad.
Happy Monday. So I'm guessing there's a day off from school. That's why you're
Teachers
here.
Institute Day today.
Right on. Yeah, he had nothing better to do. So and neither do we. And that's why we're here talking about ukuleles.
I don't have students in my room, so I decided to just use that educational
there you
energy.
go. Boom. This guy and education. Really committed to it. Committed to teaching the young minds of Americans.
We'll start with Kapa.
Welcome, everybody. What we do here is we talk any and all ukulele. You guys have questions. We have opinions about those questions. So you can ask them via the live chat. You can ask them via email, I guess, text message, phone, whatever, like voicemail. We do have a voicemail number. You guys can leave a voicemail. That if you want to hear your voice on the show, you can do that.
Please, someone do that. I've never heard that happen. I really want to hear it.
People are shy. People are even shy to just like post questions like on the live chat. But
we're nice.
Yeah, sometimes you should speak for yourself.
Depends on the question.
Yeah, I guess so. Okay, so so we answer any and all of your questions. Kahai, you ask your question wherever. Kahai will relay them over to me. I'll try to give you my best 2 cents, and today we'll come up with the best 8-cent answer, including all the other guys' 2 cents. So there's 4 guys times 2. Mr. Teacher, what is that? 4 times 2.
That would be the 8-cent answer.
It's that 8-cent answer. I don't know if that's right, but you know what? I'm not the teacher, right? Okay. Can you do that real quick?
I'm not the teacher either.
Welcome, everyone. So here we go. Kahai, what do you want to talk about?
This was a question from last week, so I said we'll save it for this one.
All right.
So Brian said, let's say you're strumming through chords 1, 2, and 3. Mm-hmm. If chord 2 has one fingering that's optimal for following chord 1, or chord 2 has a fingering that's optimal for following chord 1, and another fingering that's optimal for preceding chord 3, would you sometimes want to change the fingering of chord 2 between strums? So midway through strumming the second chord, would you change how you finger it? And so that you're both coming into and going out of chord 2 as conveniently as possible, or do you avoid doing this for the sake of simplicity or the sake of flow?
You can. It depends on the strum. You know what I mean? If the strum allows you to, for a little bit of breathing room to switch, by all means, go ahead and switch. And it's also dependent on depending on how busy it is. If it's busy, you don't necessarily want to switch, so much and stuff. It also depends on your, I hate to say this, but skill level as well. You know what I mean? If you're able to do that, if you find those breathing rooms to switch between, then if chord 2 has 2 ways that you can play it, which works, one works with chord 1 and the other one works with chord 2, you can switch it up halfway. But for the most part, you should, our 8-4-2-1 practice here on Ukulele Underground, which you switch between 2 chords, 8 beats, 8 beats, 4 beats, 4 beats, 2 beats, 2 beats, 1 beat, 1 beat. You should practice any and all chords going to and from any chord, not just chords that you can conveniently switch to. For example, if I'm going from say G, so I have C, F, and G7. Is that right? Yeah, let's do that. Do C, F, and G's and G7. What's another one? Maybe I'll try to think of one.
Well, I have the
you have it. Okay.
He wants to learn this with.
Yeah.
So let me just
do it. Let's do it. I don't know you were that prepared. Look at you.
Yeah. Talking to Brian some more, he said the one place where I may want to change the fingering of an ongoing chord is in the middle of transition from A major to D major to E minor.
Okay.
And this is for American Pie. Most of the time, it's easier and more convenient to bar D major with my index finger, but after A major, the middle finger may work better for that purpose. And then a measure later, there's a whole beat between strums where I could replace the middle finger with the index finger for barring D, which may possibly make it easier to change to E minor. And then I put like where these changes are.
I feel like that's way too much thinking. Like it's such a fleeting thing within the song itself that like I feel like you're thinking way too hard, huh?
Where you're thinking of it is like if you're playing like a chord and you're really holding it for like a long time.
Yeah,
it's like okay, even like multiple measures or multiple.
Yeah. So that's what I mean. And this like, can music save your immortal soul? Can you teach me how to dance real slow? And I know that I mean, like for that, there's so much time between the D and the E minor that like you don't have to hit this kind of D so that you can hit the E minor faster. Like you should know how to switch from this to this E minor is what I'm trying to say. Like when I was talking about the 8-4-2-1 and switching from chord to chord, you should be able to have that like in your pocket already, like switching from from this D to this E minor and from this D to this E minor. Like you should kind of know both ways because of scenarios like this where like if it might be easier for you to switch on to to this D, but then it's hard for you to get from this D to this E minor. So the easiest way to do it would be to just switch from whichever D that you're comfortable with, and then learn how to switch between that D and whatever other chord that you have there. Like that would solve that problem, rather than playing this D and then switching off to that D, then going off to this E minor here. Okay.
Can you show 8-4-2-1 with D and E minor?
Okay.
Then?
Yeah. So 8-4-2-1 will be 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8. 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8. 1 2 3 4 1 2. Oh no, I'm plugging in. 1 2 3 4 1 2 1 2 1 1 1. Like that would be 8-4-2-1. Switching between this one and that one. Just kind of knowing, because you should have it in your pocket, because it's probably going to come up multiple times. I mean, conveniently, like in this song, there is a little bit of time where you're holding D. It's like for two measures in that case. So you can kind of switch off and whatever to make that easier for you. But why would you want to? Like I think learning how to switch from this D to this E minor is just as important to learn going from this to whatever E minor, because this you have to lean into your pinky finger to make that switch, because you're letting go of the pointer, so you need some kind of assistance to go from D to E minor, unless you're just going from D to this E minor where you're keeping it as a bar, which in that case that's way too much work, rather than just going from this to learning how to switch from this to this. See what I mean? So yes and no. So yes, if you can, I mean, if that's really how you want to do it, but I feel like it's just double the work, because you have to play that D two different ways now, rather than just holding it one way. Going the one that feels comfortable from going from chord 1, which is A, and then going to chord 3, which is E minor. Then you have to play that D two different. So now you're basically playing 4 chords rather than playing 3 chords.
Yeah, because Brian did bring up like the last or a couple of weeks ago when you said like you should know multiple ways to hold one chord. But then I was kind of telling him like, I think for the most part you do want to stick to like one fingering for like whatever chord pattern you're using, and not really switch between that fingering within the chord pattern.
Yeah, within it. Like you would just be adding more work for your hands.
Yeah.
I mean, if it's like, if we're talking like 4-8 measures of it and stuff, like that's fine, because it's the same as like adding extensions, and making that like sound a little bit different. And in that case, like I would just play the extension. So like I would play the D, and then I would maybe do like a sus4, and that will lead into like to the E minor, like a lot easier.
So
or whatever, like that might lead to a little bit better.
Brian's saying too that he's considering between like a pointer, the index finger or the middle finger for switching between D to E minor. But even that, like if you're
it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
If that's what you want to do, like the middle finger, then do the same exercise, right? Do 8-4-2-1 with your
8-4-2-1 with the middle finger. But like that, either using your pointer or your middle or 3 fingers, just choose one rather than like doing 2 within like 2 measures. So like doing it's just more work.
I think like the reason why Brian thought of this too is like kind of, and I was thinking about it where it's like I think he's more of a beginner.
Yeah.
And he's thinking like, well, there has to be like a trick to doing these kinds of things. No. But I told him like, you kind of don't want to do these kinds of things because it seems like it might make a bad habit.
Yeah.
And really, like, even though it's like might be frustrating that you can't cleanly switch right now, is like you want to build that better habit of like eventually getting the timing right for making those switches.
I'm laughing because the trick is practice.
Like so in this case, how would you move from A to D to E minor?
So A to D to E minor.
Yeah. Can you break down just like maybe just like the simple movements of that?
So here, like I'm not choosing the simplest and best ways to do it. I'm just choosing like the most like standard way of holding these chords. And that's how I would honestly play it like on the stage. So going from A, which is your pointer and middle, then, then moving this middle finger down to get that D. So like my ring finger is just on the ready. So like going from A to D is not that big of a problem. Like I feel like it's more work to like to swing it because see how your wrist is swinging.
Yeah.
Like in order to get you to your A.
Thumb.
Yeah. Whereas this, it's just a matter of like, kind of shifting some fingers around where this, like there's multiple things that work in there. Okay. Angles. And then going to the E minor, using my thumb to kind of maneuver around and then getting that, that E minor from the D. So my middle finger is going down in 1 fret. So that's kind of how I think of it. And from there, I use that as a pivot point to pivot to the E minor chords from D to that. So see how like little work that it's going on with my hands is more just like my fingers shifting. So from chord to chord, because if you're gonna find shortcuts to doing that, you better find shortcuts to doing like every other chord change, because that's not that hard of a chord change, honestly. And I don't want to be like, it's not that hard, just suck it in. But honestly, like it is one of the simpler chord changes. So
and one that you will need.
Yes. Like because I'm not downplaying it at all, but it is honestly like like an easy chord change from this to that to the third one.
I was kind of telling him too that it's like you want to learn like the standard way to hold chords, because in most situations
you're gonna use the standard version.
And there is a reason why people use that chord, right? Like the majority of people use it is like for efficiency, or there's a reason why. But he was kind of like saying like, well, like how do you, if you're kind of like worried about comfort or like even switching between when different situations, right? And it's kind of like, you want to learn multiple fingerings for each chord if a situation comes up where it is more useful that way. But then at the same time, it's like, don't just give up like the standard way of holding a chord. There is like a reason. And like we tell people like for holding E, right, there's like maybe workarounds for holding E, but you always want to come back and try and bar the E chord or do those hard bar chords too.
Yeah. And I feel like, the time spent on like trying to figure out like, okay, what is like an easy way to get from this to this to this? Like you could have just been doing 8-4-2-1. I think that's like that's kind of the main problem here.
Yeah, if you did 8-4-2-1 for 10 minutes straight.
Yeah.
That would be more beneficial.
Exactly.
Trying to figure out a better way to do it.
What is, because I'm pretty sure you spent more time like thinking of a way and then writing the question out and, and asking yourself and doing that rather than just like, oh, well, if I just practice the 8-4-2-1, it'll get, Yeah.
I think like for something like this where it's like multiple chord changes, then you do like just A to D, right? 8 4 2 1. Then you do D to E minor.
Yeah. D to E minor.
If you can do both of them where you're just changing it on the beat, then you can just put it together. It should be where it's like,
or do 8 4 2 1 with 3 chords. So doing 8 on A, 8 on D, 8 on E minor, then 4 on A, 4 on D, 4 on E minor, 2 on A, 2 on D, 2 on E minor, 1 1 1.
Yeah.
Yeah. So because 8 4 2 1 doesn't have to stop at 2 chords. It can be 3 4 5 chords, whatever. And that's how you practice your chord progressions through 8 4 2 1.
Yeah. And especially like you said with this song too, it's like I don't know if Brian is thinking about this, but when you switch to E minor, it's just you're just strumming once, right?
Yeah.
So if you can just get that like strum on E minor once, it kind of makes it like easier where it's like you don't have to think about like what's coming next. It's like just hit it and then it's like that's it. You're good. You're solid.
I like that. I like 8 4 2 1. I feel like it should be in every beginner's like toolkit as far as like a practice toolkit. I think 8 4 2 1 is very, very beneficial. I wonder what they're gonna call 8 4 2 1, guys. Somebody copies 8 4 2 1 and then makes it themselves. We were talking earlier because there was a student that like I make up like stuff like on ukulele on the ground. Like one of the things I made up is into outs, like finger picking. That's definitely a made up term, right? And somebody presented one of, and I'm gonna name him by name because he's my student. So there was a music from Matt Dahlberg, and he does the into out like kind of it's actually into out to in, but he said in and out technique, like the inner and then the outer string, but it's like in and out doesn't necessarily make too much sense.
I just realized though, like Matt likes naming things like that. And I'm wondering if he said in and out to make it like in and out burger.
No, I don't think so. That's
he does like doing that kind of thing though, where he tags something with like a name like that. And or not, I'm sure he knew because what you're saying, right?
Yeah.
But I think he maybe said like in and out to like when he tells his students that kind of things. He likes having things match something else, right? Like
what I was getting at was that like the chunk became chuck, into out became in and outs, and like and a bunch of stuff that I would just like make up names for when we like first did it are now like turned into other things so that other people can be like, this is my thing, instead.
I was looking on YouTube just randomly and just recommended. This, I forget who was even doing the video because it wasn't somebody I recognized, and it's like how to chunk. And like big letters.
Oh, chunk? Chunk or chuck?
They wrote it as chunk.
Okay. At least at least it's where
And I was looking at that, and it kind of tickled my fancy. I wonder how many people actually
now it's become it is that thing where it's like so far removed though, because people will say like, I thought it was like this from this other person, because that other person got it from somebody else too.
Like that's like 3 generations removed of
8 4 2 1's another one where like it was it going to be 2 holes, whole, half, quarter? Like what is it going to be next?
Someone will come up with a fancy name.
You makes the world takes. As what we say around here, Mike. You makes the world takes.
Okay. Kind of based on the last one, MJ Wisne Uxi said, so finding a pivot or anchor finger can make chord changes easier, right?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
I think it does. There is a thing though where it's like the type of change that you want to get used to and make though is like where you're just letting go of all the fingers at one time and
then forming the next chord in the air before you put it down,
and you land on the chord on the one, right? Like you're taking off the beat before and you're landing on the one.
So what we're talking about, so like say there is no pivot finger, so like say going from D to E minor, like that same change that we're just talking about, like what Aaron mentioned is just kind of like lifting it up and in the air, like building that E minor and then dropping it as it goes.
Yeah.
So you don't necessarily want to like form one like finger at a time. Like nobody switches chords that way. You're gonna land with the chord already built in the air, and then you use, so what Kai was talking about, use the upbeat before then to kind of do an open chord and then land on the downbeat. So from D1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4.
And the thing is too, you don't even have to hit the up. You can just move your hand up.
1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2.
Yeah.
Well, I told Brian about this, and I told him to practice this, and he was kind of like, "Oh, but there's no like that open up change in American Pie."
Yeah.
And I was like, "There is. If you listen, there definitely is changes like that."
Yeah.
But even if there isn't, it's something you want to practice because it's used so often, right? Even if you don't hit that.
Even if it's not in that key, like, it works wonders, honestly. But so what they're talking about, like, it is ideal to have like a pivot finger, like, so from C, when you go into G, like you're not using that ring finger. If you're using a ring finger for the C, going to the G, you might want to like take your middle finger there and use that as a pivot to land on the other two chords is another one. And or maybe G to D. So from G, my ring finger is already there, sliding it back, using that as a pivot, and then putting the other two fingers on. Like that's ideal is what is what you want, right? But if you can't, if nothing like matches like from one chord to another, or nothing shares the same string where you can leave a finger, you just lift it up on the on the upbeat before, so you go down. Not beats before. It's the up, like the last possible second. You give yourself like half a beat to switch to the chord and drop on beat 1. Or whatever downbeat that you're swapping to. People are like, what if it's not beat 1?
Yeah. And like, I think
right? Enough of the questions.
People think like you
could be a flat one.
It's like, but it's you can't change every chord without lifting your finger up, at least like on that last second.
Yeah.
So making it where it's like consistent and you're like practicing on that last upbeat, it just makes it like so much easier to do it for like every situation.
And it's it's so fast that like that the open chord doesn't even register. Like it's not that bad. I use it all the time. If I do it like at least every Friday jam that you see us play, like every song I do that in. So if you haven't noticed, then, or if you have noticed, nobody else is complaining. I do it on my albums, like it's in that. It's recorded for life, forever. Like that's how it's gonna be. You're gonna hear that open chord, but it doesn't really matter.
Okay.
Next.
He also said that should I decide on a personal go-to fingering for D major and for any other chord?
I guess the go-to would be just the standard. The standard,
which is the 3 fingers.
Right. But what I mean by like learning how to hold it like at least 3 different ways, you have your standard, and that's the go-to. Like the 3, this is standard for everybody. Okay, that's a standard way of holding D. Yes, you can hold D like this, like however, like 2 fingers even if you want to do that. But knowing how to hold it like the standard way, like a 3 fingers way, is very, very, very important. And then come up with 2 alternates just in in some special cases. But in most cases, you're gonna go to the
what percent of the time do you use that 3 finger one?
I don't know, like 70% of the time people are making up statistics, so. I want to say 10%. 10% of the time it works all the time. It just depends. Like it really depends on what chord and the progression as as a whole. So I would do that if I'm switching like fast, going from A to then I would use that. I wouldn't be, but I can, if I have to. But out of sake of simplicity or sake of ease for me, I'll use my middle finger just because it's like it happens so fast that like it doesn't really matter.
Nice.
Or
but that's why, like, so aside from that edge case, like how much time would you normally use your go-to?
My go-to, I say
50%.
Like above, way above,
way above,
like above like 80%.
Above 80%.
Yeah. It's pretty high. Yeah, and I would use this D.
Yeah, which would be the case for like practicing that more than any other one.
Yes, sir. And you're absolutely right.
I think maybe the problem too, like that Brian might be having, is he's like learning this song from like an app. And so they just give him what it looks like, but not like somebody who's like actually holding it or playing along. And that's kind of the thing, is like, even if you use tabs or chord sheets or apps, is like try and find somebody who actually plays the song and look at what they're doing, right?
Are you trying to say that if you sign up for UU Plus, you can watch somebody playing it for you? Or if you check out Ukulele Underground, you see a play along of somebody with actual fingers, like that's playing that for you, Kahai? You know, is that what you're trying to say?
Yeah.
Yes.
Not American Pie, but
hashtag ad
other stuff. Yeah. And you like watch other people play. You learn the chords, how they play it, that song or whatever, and then it usually, like, the more you build up on that, it applies to every other song.
Yeah, I mean that's a big thing. Like a lot of people are visual learners as well, you know. So if you see it visually, like, just as a strip, you know, like of like 2-2-2-0, you know, like just that one strip at the top, then it's kind of tough to interpret it. But if you see it, like if you see somebody doing it, then that's how most of us learn, right? Like you just monkey see, monkey do.
Our students, we can tell when they're learning just from the tab, because usually they're like not fingering in the way that we know the person who made the tab would be fingering.
That's why a lot of my questions for the people coming into, like, say, live coaching and showing, like, oh, what did they do? Like, what did who did you get this arrangement from? And is there a video where they play it, and what finger did they use like to do so? And then it's like, and then it starts to make sense, because like, okay, or maybe they're trying to, if it's not not the standard that we usually go, then we try to figure out, like, okay, well then why did they choose that specific fingering to play that chord? Because it has to set up for something, either that or it's just like an arranger's like choice, you know.
We've also had where it's like that we ask them that and then go like, oh, I don't know, I didn't really see the video.
Yeah.
And then when they watch the video,
tabs,
they realize, like, oh no, the way that you're explaining it is the way that they show it in the video too.
So you mean on ukuleleunderground.com there are tutorials where you can watch people how to play the thing? Is that right, Mike?
I would tell everybody that Ukulele Underground, and if you want to take your ukulele playing to the next level, Ukulele Underground Plus would be the place to go.
It's like Disney Plus?
Ukulele Underground, yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
And in some cases, even more entertaining.
See, once again, guys, UU Plus came way before Disney Plus. UU makes the world takes. Even Disney. Even Disney had to copy us. You know what I mean? UU makes the world takes. Oh, 2025 is a whole new level of arrogance.
I mean, I feel like it's just commensurate with the amount of awards this podcast.
I feel like.
Yeah. Don't you think so? I mean, I feel like
yeah.
If you're a No Time Podcast award winner, you should be a little more humble. You haven't done it. You win it once.
Oh man,
it comes up a little bit. But if you win it twice,
there's a correlation.
Yeah,
there's a correlation. Yeah.
Get ready, folks. When the third one comes, he's going to be wearing a crown.
If I'm not already. At home, I just...
He's going to be wearing a crown made of broken ukuleles.
Well, like you said, right? You told Brittany, like, if you ever win a Hoku...
Oh, yeah. It's going to be belt, man.
Or I thought it was, like, Flavor Flav.
Oh, yeah.
So there's options, right?
Yeah, there are options. I want to make a spinner belt, like John Cena, like make a spinner belt with that thing, just spin it and like a big gold belts, and then just have the Hoku right in the middle. Yo, if I win a Grammy, same thing. I feel like.
I think if you should wear it as a hat, because
cool. Like a hat, like the was that monophone or whatever? Yeah.
You look like, I feel like if you wear that, it's like you look like Willy Wonka.
Yeah. Yo, I'll take you to a world imagination, pure imagination.
Don't go with him, kids. Don't go with that Willy Wonka.
Don't ever go to that man.
No.
He'll just insult you. And you're going to cry.
No.
Yeah. You know.
Hi, welcome to the weird part of internet.
my wife was like, maybe you should start acting more now that you won, you know, two awards like for your podcast. Maybe you should start acting more like an award recipient, or award winner. I'm like Heather, anything I do is the is the actions of an award winner. Why? Because I am an award winner. So anything I do is the actions of somebody who won an award.
I thought the answer was going to be, I thought that's what I was doing.
Why?
Is it not enough? I can do more. I can do more.
Yo, the level of arrogance is going to go up higher and higher. I love this show. And then the answers to the questions are going to be more arrogant. Yo, just practice. Why are you asking me this? You should just be practicing.
All the answers are going to just be, well, if you'd watch my videos, you'd actually know the answer to this already. Sign up for Ukulele Underground Plus.
We got to break character, guys. Just in case, like a first time watcher, like this is it's kayfabe. This is kayfabe.
I was gonna say, as the kids say, skill issue, right? Like somebody was like,
oh my god! See, even Kahai. So the awards are going in his head, man. He used to be so humble and so, you know.
Yeah.
Now he's talking about the people's skill issue.
Yeah. Yep.
We love you. We love you.
Yep.
Okay, now back to our regularly scheduled program.
Okay. We have another question too that was sent in.
After all that, I bet you do.
Okay, go ahead. Hit us.
I couldn't make like a thing for it, but I'll just read it out. I have another question. Oh, this is from Carl.
Okay.
I have another question that may be interesting for the podcast, but I also don't want to hog podcast time. Let's see. And he wanted it specifically for Mike too, like if Mike is on. Mm-hmm. I've been learning a little bit about the history of intervals and how the development of equal temperament means that a musical piece can be played in any key. Yet despite this, certain instruments and even certain types of music sometimes favor certain keys. For example, pieces for violin are often in D, and jazz music is often in B flat and E flat because trumpet and saxes are tuned to those keys. So my question is the GCEA tuned ukulele possibly better suited to any particular key or keys due to the nature of the instrument itself? C and G seem very common choices on ukulele, but of course those are common keys in music in general, and the tuning might suggest that C and A minor might suit ukulele. Tone-wise though, I think I prefer the key of F on ukulele, but I don't know if there's a reason apart from personal preference that might be so. Yeah,
I feel like I fell asleep like halfway through that question. See, arrogance. It's gonna go higher.
Okay, so
you answer this. Yeah, you do it.
I guess first off, is there keys that are suited for
like
ukulele?
He could have made that question in like 3 sentences, but he chose not to. He just chose to talk about his life story first, Mike. So here you go. What are some keys that are suited for the ukulele? Being tuned G, C, E, A. Mm-hmm. He likes F. C, G are common, but is it just because it's common or does it suit the ukulele? Boom. Those are the 3 sentences that he could have just said.
So
I love it. Okay, go.
So, I mean, I think every instrument, so the only instrument I feel which is, I guess, key neutral, meaning no key is necessarily, I guess, harder than another one. Maybe the piano.
Piano and harp.
But even within that, someone who is playing in like C sharp or F sharp, where it's mostly black keys, might disagree with you. You know what I mean? I think anything. So when we talked about the equal temperament thing, this is. The reason they choose to use equal temperament is because it gives the most instruments the most chances. Because if you use other tuning schemes, which means different intervals of vibration between notes, there are other keys that will sound further out than others. Okay, so the idea with an equal temperament system is since the space between each note vibration-wise is the same, then no matter where you're starting or where you're ending, the spaces don't change that much. Therefore, if I'm playing in C, it sounds fine. If I'm playing a C that's a key that's far away from that, like F sharp, it should also sound fine. Whereas if you take some of the now keep in mind this is different than people who always say like, oh, I tune my instrument to A432 and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Okay, we're gonna get to history
not talking
nerd
about
stuff.
that.
We're gonna get into history nerd stuff here. All that means it's A432 is still equal temperament. It just means that the vibration point that you use to denote the note A, which is the first note, is lower.
Like your reference point for what A should sound like is lower.
So when you see that, it means that if you take air and make it vibrate at 432 times a minute, you'll get the note A. Okay? What we all think of as in tune is that same piece of air being vibrated at 440 times. So that's all it changes. So it's going to sound a little lower. Some people think it sounds warmer. Some people think it hits chakras. No. What really is happening is the reason 440 is what people think of is there was kind of an arms race we talk about in the late 1800s into the 1900s. Who could play the highest? And part of it had to go with singers. Because if you sing a song at A432 and sing the same song in 440, the 440 will sound brighter because it's basically slightly higher pitch in your ears. So a lot of singers like to do it because it made them stand out more. And the truth is, even European orchestras actually go higher now. If you visit like the Berlin Philharmonic or see any of those, they tune somewhere between A442 and A445. Sometimes they even try and go as high as like 450, but that's, it's just a different tuning scheme. And the truth is, if you listen to two orchestras playing, you'll know there's a difference, but you just won't know what it is. It's not a better thing. Tuning temperaments is different. It's the math at which you figure out how to get from one note to the next note. And there's a million of them out there. There's one based on the math work of Pythagoras. There's one that's based on what they think the resonant vibration of the earth is. It's a lot. Equal temperament pretty much is the only one where all 12 major and minor keys actually sound about the same, meaning that no one key sounds really out. It means the vibration math doesn't work so good in certain keys. If you listen to, and there's a couple, we bring them up on this channel with him. Adam Neely did a really good video on it, where he retuned his piano to different tuning schemes and played the same thing. And you can definitely hear when you get to certain keys, it's very out of tune sounding. You know what I mean? But it's in tune for that. So that's why equal temperament is what we use. As for the trumpet and saxophone thing, the actual thing about transposition is actually more about reading music than it was about sound. Every instrument can play in what we call concert key. So he played clarinet. That's a B flat instrument.
But it's in C.
Right. So if you play B flat on that and he plays C on his clarinet, which would be the same for Kahai. Aaron played tenor sax, which would actually be the same thing. Okay.
I played clarinet.
You play clarinet too? Okay.
Yeah.
So your clarinet would be that, and your tenor sax would be that same thing, but an octave lower.
Yeah. I thought, is tenor B flat?
Tenor's B flat.
Oh, no, I'm thinking alto is E flat. Alto E flat.
So it's just, and even that, it's like sound wise, we would all be playing the same note, but the note on the music sheet would be different.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah.
And the reason they did that was, so if anybody's ever seen flute music, which is a C pitch instrument, no transposition. If you ever look at flute music, the whole thing is pretty much above the staff.
Off the rafters.
Everything is above the staff in ledger lines. If you read tuba, it's concert pitch instrument. Everything is below the staff and it's all ledger lines. Anybody would tell you that ledger lines are harder to read than what's on the staff. It's 100%. So a lot of these instruments, what they did was when they made the transposition, it was not actually about, because if you play clarinet and you learn to think of it in concert pitch, it really wouldn't change a whole lot. But what it changes is how you read it on the music, where it lies on the staff. So a lot of the transposing instruments lie on the staff because it's easier to read.
I'm guessing also.
And write. Yeah.
I'm guessing also for the person who's like conducting the music, right? They can just quickly look at the music sheet and be like, "Oh, that one's like above the ledger line. That must be the flute part, right? Oh, and that's below the ledger line. That's the tuba part." Like if you're reading across the whole sheet,
it's easier to read. It is easier to read for everybody. Now the flutes and the tubas and stuff. By the time they started codifying some of these things, you got to remember these are older instruments. They were kind of already written that way, so people just didn't bother to change them. But a lot of these newer versions of the instruments, the trumpet is an old instrument, but the version that we think of, the B flat version, is a much newer one. The saxophone is the saxophone's only about 20 years older than the ukulele. So in the grand scheme of the world, it's not a very old instrument. You know what I mean? So they had a lot of time to think about, well, if we do baritone saxophone or bass saxophone, it'd be all down into it. Well, what if we just make it that and then bring it all up here and just say, okay,
it's tuned this way.
You're going to hear it like an octave and a half down from what you read, but you're going to get to read it all on the staff, and it's much easier.
For reading and writing purposes.
If reading and writing purposes, it makes it way easier.
So the going back to this question, ukulele is concert key, just to kind of go back into it. The ukulele is concert key, so you see those those like C, G, F, those kind of easier, but it doesn't necessarily mean that like those are the only ones that sound good with the with the instrument, like because it's concert key, you can play in whatever key
and
that you want, and equal temperament, and like those those other instruments like a B flat, like a trumpet is in B flat.
Yes.
Like it'll be in that. It doesn't necessarily mean that those are the keys that like it'll sound good. Sound good in. So because it's like a step down from concert key, then that's why you have different different keys that work well for the trumpet. But it doesn't necessarily mean that like trumpet works well in those keys. It's still the same C and G, but you'll see it as a D in trumpet, or as B flat, like in trumpet, which would be concert C.
I think the thing that is like what makes it where it's like people are like, oh, this key is better for this instrument. It goes back to like the same thing where it's like fingering wise, this key is better for trumpet, right? Like I have to push down less tubes, and I have to think about it less. Or same for clarinet too, I'm sure. And then like piano, it's like, oh, you mean I don't have to play the black keys, or I only have to play the black keys? That makes thinking for me easier. So for ukulele, it's like you don't see certain keys because it's like, I don't want to bar that often. Like I'm playing keys that are made more so I can play easier to hold chords.
And so to go to a string instrument, because we both play string instruments. So string instruments end up the way they ended up, the tuning you use. There is a little bit of simplicity to it in the sense that a lot of times when you have a tuning scheme, this is true for violins, violas, all the strings, guitar.
Concert keys.
They figure out what keys people wanted to sing in. That was a big one. Figure out what key people want to sing in, and then they did the tuning scheme, so it was easier to play those particular chords.
Yes.
A lot of instruments start off as vocal accompaniment instruments, so that's why you tend to see instruments that tend to have what some might think as easier keys for them. I mean. And the truth is, if you were to play a song in C sharp, where everything is C sharp, F sharp, G,
it'd be tough.
It's a little bit more, but that's also because back when people were trying to figure out what tuning to use this for, people weren't singing in C sharp a lot. It was easier for them to sing in C, which is why they chose to make the arrangement of notes easier to hit the specific ones. The intervals between strings were certain ones because you were able to there's if you think of the guitar or ukulele, when you go from the C string to your E string, it's a third instead of a fourth. And then it's a fourth going up to the A string. And the whole reason for that and for that scheme on guitar is that when you're playing certain chords, you have to stretch less. You know what I mean? So someone figured that out. They try, I think probably...
If it goes too long, then it's...
and I think somewhere along the line, someone figured out, someone maybe have tuned a guitar in all fourths, like a bass guitar.
Or like a violin.
And then they figured out that maybe trying to do like a D chord was like really something like this, where they have to stretch. So, well, if I just bring this note,
most of the common keys.
So now now the top string, that E string or A string, then that was like a stretch. So so if I do that, then I'll just bring this one down too.
Just to make it easier for me.
And
then that became standardized.
Whoever they taught, pick that up. And you know, like a lot of instruments, I've often said this is that, you know, outside of ukuleunderground.com, nobody has very few people have what they consider like the book, the method. And that's because the ukulele is so new comparatively. You know what I mean? Even newer instruments, like the saxophone is recognized now as a world-renowned classical instrument. And yet, if you go to, you know, a music store that has methods and stuff, there are many different methods for playing the saxophone that are all well recognized by great teachers. Whereas, if you go backwards towards more traditional instruments like string bass, there's several different methods, schools of it, but not as many. Because, and the big one is called the Simando method, which was Franz Simando was a student of Domenico Dragonetti, who was like the first super, you know, he was like the first super like prodigy bass player. And his method became so widespread that I would probably say at least 60 to 70% of the bass players, classical bass players on the planet, use that or started with that method. And everybody else may have started with that, but then they tweak things. Like the guy whose method I use, Francois Raboff, he got started like following Simando's methods and then just figured out his own thing. Edward Nani was another guy.
So going back to his question, like let's wrangle it back.
Nerd stuff.
Wrangle it back. So that's why you get those, you know, those same kind of keys like C, G. It just works for the tuning of the ukulele, and it's concert tuning, you know, and that's why they're more common. But to you, if F sounds good, then F sounds good, then play in that key. And if you know, if whatever at that point, what sounds good, like will really just depend on the individual at that point. But as far as like what your ukulele naturally plays, it's gonna be those keys because that's what it's tuned to.
But you should learn all of them.
Yeah. You should learn all the keys
because your ukulele can play all of them.
I think earlier we were talking about like how different tunings and like people will say like, oh, I like this because it whatever for whatever reason. It's like totally fine if you like something because of how it sounds and like it sounds good to you. But then it's just like we're just saying like scientifically it's no different from like another key or another thing. So there's not like objectively like something that's like this is objectively better than this.
And standards are standards for a reason so that you can play with other people. Right?
That's the whole point is like, or the whole point of like all of these things, right, is just the ability, making it easier so whole groups of people can play together.
But what you were saying makes sense about like the concert key is kind of revolves around what people naturally sing in. And then that's part of the reason why the Canadian tuning or like quote unquote Canadian tuning is A, D, F sharp, B. Is because they were taught in schools and the kids naturally have a higher singing register. So playing like the C shape, C, F, G shapes on that tuning is easier for them.
I like we were getting questions where it's like, what is double stops, right? And that's related to like violins and that kind of instruments where they don't play harmonies as much. And to play like a double stop, they have to do like a pretty big stretch because of how their strings are tuned. So it's like, that is like something, but like, because they don't do that, they play more like lead lines or they can play other things easier because of their tuning. But then in that case, they don't play like chords or harmonies and stuff where you would hear guitar and ukulele play that more, right? Like that's more our realm of the music.
Well, it's almost impossible. I mean, even in great classical pieces that have chords, you will see that. But it's one of those things where they take the bow and start one and arc it over.
Yeah, to get, because it is
and
like,
it rings out
yeah.
as a chord, but it starts an arpeggiated chord.
Yeah,
the way we think of chords, where it's like all the notes.
One shot. Yeah.
Usually you would just have like different parts for the different violins to get like a certain chord effect, rather than like playing it on one violin. Yeah. Okay, next chord. Yo, Carl, if your intention was hijacking the like the podcast for half an hour, you got it, bud. That's it. Ask more questions like that.
If you ask music nerd stuff, I'm not going to be able to stop.
Yes, don't.
And there's people who were like, oh yeah, I like this because I'm like a music nerd too. But but I think that's pretty much it in questions from the chat too. Yeah.
See, Carl, you even intimidated from other people to ask questions. Yeah, you happy now? That's what we do here, Mike. Someone ask a good question.
Two-time award winner.
It's like a great question. We're like, no. So, Kahai, what's up? We have no more questions left. What do you want to talk about now?
Did you want to set up another songwriting challenge? We haven't done that in a long time.
I guess so, huh? We should do that. Songwriting challenge. So people come at us with some suggestions for the songwriting challenge. What we do here is we usually do a songwriting challenge that happens for about a month. We'll come up with like a subject, maybe some chords, so like whatever, like some fun stuff that you can write songs to, some guidelines. You write your song, and we usually show you folks a song that we came up with using the same parameters 3 weeks later, just to get an idea, and then a week after that, you guys send in your songs, and then we'll give a prize to one of the people who submitted a song to.
Just a
small little prize, nothing crazy.
We're not, and it's not based on how good your song is. It's just everybody who writes a song, their name is put in a hat and it's randomly selected.
So it's not like I'm gonna write the best
I have
song.
a pretty good prize.
Oh yeah,
I think we have several.
Okay,
but we'll see what it is.
What is? I don't even know.
I was gonna say like,
what is this prize?
I also want Mike.
What? You're gonna give that away?
Yeah, that was the intention.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yo, this is a signed Pure Heart album. That's right. Pure Heart Jake, Lopaka, John. This is Jake Shimabukuro's original band. This is the first album
that he was ever on.
That he was on, and it's signed by all three members of Pure Heart.
Yeah, allegedly we don't have like
that's their signature. Like I can attest to that. So this is the OG like Pure Heart album. This is not only rare and hard to find, but to get these three guys in the same room is also very rare. So not only you have to have the rare album, but you need to get all three dudes to have it signed. So
they have been touring a little bit
more now than they did before. But this is where it started. This is the album that has Europa in it. Okay, this is where see all of us wannabes that play Europa. That's from this album. Okay, most of us didn't hear it from Carlos Santana. Most of us heard it from this album right here. This is the one. Bring Me Your Cup is in this. Olinda Road, Crazy Without You. Just Press. Malagueña. This is the one. Jake's Prelude is a Malagueña that goes into Europa. This is the album that it's in. Okay, so all that Why Manalo Blues, that's also in here. This is where it all began for me. This was the album that really get me to deep dive into ukulele. I was learning some fun stuff from Kyle Creator Boys, but this is the one that really I should really put my music theory into work. This is the one. Not saying that Kyle Creator Boys didn't need that, but this really got me digging deep into the ukulele. So this is the coveted prize for this. Wow, I did not. Wow. Okay.
I was gonna say too, Aaron. It would have been nice if you did go out and get it signed and stuff. But didn't you just like come across this and it was like, oh, I'm gonna grab this.
Hey, you don't gotta say that.
Well, I just think like that's, or talking about like how getting it signed now. It wasn't like.
Yeah. This one
that's why.
This probably came from like the 90s.
Yeah. So this album came to be because 4-String Studios, where I recorded my second album. So a little insight into this album, because I worked with the producer of this album. He produced my second album. My second album was I'm a Dreamer, and Tracy Terada was actually Jake Shimabukuro's ukulele teacher, and Tracy Terada wanted to make an album with all of his ukulele students. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So Jake's like, oh, I have this band that I jam with, and he brought these guys in. They recorded their song. I believe it was Waimanalo Blues was like the first one that they did, and it was kind of one of those magic moments of like, let's just do an entire album, and then boom, this came out. And then sorry to the other people in that school at that time, but this is the one that and this put like Jake on the map. This put Tracy on the map, and that's why I seeked out Tracy Terada to work with like such a legendary producer, so I can learn through working with Tracy on how a recorded sound of ukulele should be. Yeah, so this is it, folks. This is the one. Okay, this is OG. This is like in the levels of like Ukulele Underground, like first pressing T-shirt, because that's like the rarest shirt that we have. It's like that first pressing ukulele, like UU, like brown and red and white UU T-shirt. This is the equivalent of that. That's it. This is where it all began. Okay.
Yeah, I feel like if somebody gets a CD and then they start listening to it, they're like, oh, that's why they did that play along.
Yeah.
Oh, that's why they did that play along.
This is the one. This is the one. So good. Crazy Without You is also in this. See, we play Crazy Without You a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, can I have this? Am I not?
Enter the contest.
I don't think I have a signed copy. I have this, and I'm friends with all three dudes, but I don't think I have a signed copy of this album. So
I have my personal copy with like the cracked case, and that's actually more sentimental to me than this. So that's why I'm giving it away.
So here it is, Pure Heart 1. Wow, what right? What kind of what would you guys like to do? So since it's your prize to put up,
it doesn't matter.
Maybe
matter to me.
Come up with the first thing though. Come up with the first thing.
You must use Malgania as an intro to your. No, kidding.
Half Step Down. Write a song tuned. And since this episode we were talking about tuning your instrument. This album is tuned half step down, meaning it's not G, C, E, A. It's F sharp, B, D sharp, G sharp. Okay? Mm-hmm. Write a song tuned half step down.
I'm playing in the key of C sharp and I'm tuning half a step down.
But yeah, so get to it, folks. 2.5 step down. But then what are some other things that you guys want to add on?
So that's the main to enter the
giveaway. He's got to write a song tuned half step down. That's very easy. Yeah, very easy. That's the necessary requirement. Okay, everything else is just extra. What about your guest? Mm-hmm. Give us a a parameter to work around.
A bonus parameter or something to give people ideas for writing songs and stuff.
I'm thinking of all mean ones. I'm not going to do any of those.
Yeah, don't.
So, must use A432. No, I'm kidding.
Then it would be half step down, and that would cancel out the first.
No, it'd be A432, a half step down.
I guess so.
Yeah, do both. That would be the flattest sounding thing ever to us.
Yeah, Bruce Shimabukuro is also in this.
Yeah.
Part of me wants to say, yeah, for whatever song you write, do a short instrumental intro.
Oh, okay. All right. Bonus. Do an do a riff, an ukulele riff,
in there. You were talking about how Malgania
Yes.
influence.
Yep.
So do something similar to that, although it doesn't have to be that long or complicated.
Yeah, Jake's Prelude. That's Malagueña, basically. Like, it's okay. What else? So have some kind of ukulele riff in there or intro. Yeah.
What original songs are on there?
You Came Into My Life.
Yeah. That's it. The rest of them are all covers.
I think so. They're mostly covers. Yeah. I can't see. Maybe Ka'ai. I think that's another instrumental that they wrote.
Yeah.
Jake's Prelude.
Can you just go down the list and name the song titles, and then maybe if people use that as like a leaping off board for like making their own songs and stuff?
So Bring Me Your... Yeah, you Came Into My Life is by Jake. Ka'ai is by Jake and John. Jake's Prelude is by Jake, and that's it. That's it. So here's the track list for people that were interested.
Yeah. So anything that inspires, you can use that too.
So here's the track list: Bring Me Your Cup, Green Rose Hula, Olinda Road. It's another lesson that we did here. Crazy Without You, Ka'ai, Hey Baby, You Came Into My Life. Hey Baby is in Hey Baby. Okay. You Came Into My Life, Just Press, Molokai Sweet Home, Waimanalo Blues, On Fire, Star of Gladness, Jake's Prelude, Europa, One Love, Mr. Sancho Lee. A great song.
So I like was listing it off. I think half of that album we have as lessons.
Yeah, for real. I love this. I love this band. It's my favorite ukulele band. Like, I'm not even this and Kyle Creative Boys. I'm not even gonna hide. I'm a huge fanboy. That's why, like, I'm friends with Jake. But I doesn't mean like I don't get nervous around him, because he's still my hero. Same thing with like with John and Lopaka. Like I remember they were last here on Kauai like a couple years ago, like right before my youngest was born, and Jake's like, hey, do you want to come to the concert? I'm like, yo, my wife is like full term pregnant, like, and she could like give birth any second. But yes, I'm coming down to your.
In fact, I hope.
I hope
my baby gets born at your concert.
That sounds like a joke, but that's exactly what I told Jake Shimabukuro. I'm like, yo, like, it would be the best thing if my wife could go into labor and give birth during the Pure Heart concert, because that would be the best case scenario for me. And
isn't Jake's wife like also a doctor?
That's what he said. He's like, oh, it's perfect because my wife is a she's an OB. He's an OBGYN, so she could deliver my baby. I'm like, yo, that is best case scenario. I hope my wife goes into labor that night when we go in. I don't know what I gotta do to induce labor.
Sophie. Just saying, you wouldn't have been Sophie.
Yeah.
It's you would have literally been
Jake.
Dad, what?
This is my other daughter, Pure Heart.
Yeah.
Pure Heart Guerrero.
Why is my name Pure Heart?
Yeah.
Like, it sounds like a joke, but I swear to God, that's what I told Jake that night. And then like going in the back, because Jake's like, oh, like come say hi to the guys and stuff. I was like still nervous, like being in like in like the Pure Heart's dressing room. Is like, oh my gosh, like this is Pure Heart. And I was with Mike at the time, right? Like me and you.
I brought Catherine.
Yeah.
It was all of us.
And I brought my mother-in-law because she's never seen Jake play, and I'm like, oh, yo, this is the best. This is the best way to see him. Seeing Jake Shimabukuro, like, that's cool. That's a pretty normal experience. But seeing Jake Shimabukuro Pure Heart, I'm like, that's what you want to go to.
Also, that place is super, like, it's not giant. It's big, but it's not giant.
Oh yeah,
and he got us all really nice seats.
Yo, so yes, he got us VIP because it was indoors.
Yeah,
VIP is indoors.
Yeah,
General is outside. and
and so you got to see. So not only did she get to see him up close, but like up close.
Yeah, and I met the guys. She met the dude. Yeah, with us. Didn't she come in the back with us? Yeah. So it was nice. So, which, by the way, he's playing this weekend. So maybe
is it this weekend?
It's this weekend at Anaina Hall. I should call him. I'm like, Jake, what's going on with these $75 tickets, man? Like, Yo, that's 4 dozen eggs. Like, 4 or 5 dozen eggs.
Two
Yeah.
dozen.
Yeah, 2. So I'm like, yo, what's with the egg price like tickets, man? What's going on?
You should take this CD and bring it to him and be like, "Is this your signature?" And then I hope he's like, "No, that's not my signature at all."
Okay, well then sign it now, then please.
Yeah. Oh wait, we should go this
Double sign.
weekend and just have like a new one, like right there
On the CD.
Yeah, on the CD. Yeah, have Jake sign the CD.
Or
You know,
is
if
it
he
like,
calls.
you're gonna bring that CD, Aaron's gonna bring his CD, and then you bring your own CD too. And it's like, can you sign these 3 CDs again? He's like, I already signed this one. Why do you want me to sign it a second
Just
time?
do it, Jake. All right. Can you stop the lip and you just sign the CD? Mr. Famous Guy, Mr. Big Shot over here. Mr. $75 outside ticket. Okay.
Because we tried to use his signature on a check and it bounced. We need your updated.
Yeah, Mr. Big Shot. I was like $200 for a VIP ticket or something. Like $150, $200, depending. With like the meet and greet, it's like $200. Like,
Yes.
Dude, Jake, don't tell me I gotta pay $200 to me to say hi to you, man. What's going on? What about the kamainas?
What about the brothers?
What about the brothers? Cuz you make like
Okay.
we never, you know.
Wait, so how do
Yes.
people enter?
Okay, how can people enter? Make a video or make an audio. Like, so video of you playing your original song, or you can just record it and, you know, take the audio, send it to questions@ukuleleunderground.com. questions@ukuleleunderground.com. Don't forget the S in questions. Okay, questions with an S at ukuleleunderground.com. If you can send us your video or your audio there. If you uploaded it to YouTube, you can send us the link to the YouTube, and we'll get it. 4 weeks from now, we'll pick a winner.
Okay, so ours is due in 3 weeks and theirs is due in 4.
Yeah, so ours is due on the 3rd, and theirs is due on the 10th. Yeah, the 10th. Okay, so yours is due on the 10th, ours is due on the 3rd. So once again, write a song in a half step down tuning. Okay, and you can use any of the song titles for some inspiration, and make sure. Some bonuses are using the song titles for inspiration, and also using an instrumental intro or an ukulele riff in there as well. So those are your parameters. All up your heart style.
Yes.
Okay, dang, that's insane, dude. I can't believe we're giving this away. And that's not me just hyping it up. Like, oh, wow, look at this. Lee Hing Mui. Can't believe we're giving this away.
Should we photocopy the thing and then put that into a CD case, and then when they get it, they're like, oh, cool. And they open it up, it's like, this isn't the CD? What's
this greenback?
This is a blank CD.
Yeah, CDR. Okay, nice. That's our songwriting challenge for the first one of 2025. Hopefully a little bit more. You know,
if you are the winner, let them know if you want them to sign that CD.
No, not definitely
That's a
on that
ruin.
album. That's sacrilegious.
Bring the value down.
But yeah, signed Pure Heart album. My God. Yeah,
generous.
just right here, folks. It's right here. Then all of a sudden, Matt Dahlberg is going to give away a signed Pure Heart 2 album. You makes the world takes. I'm telling you.
Pure Heart 2.
Yeah.
Who's gonna give away?
5.
Who's gonna give away the Christmas album? Who's gonna?
Yeah. You makes the world. Even Disney couldn't help themselves. You know, Disney Plus. What's going on? Hulu Plus. What's going on with this? Paramount Plus. I'm telling you, Mike. You makes the world takes. Is that the first time I've said that on camera? Because we say that a lot, like behind camera. But I feel like it's the first time we've
I think it's the first time you said it on a
we
podcast.
said it.
For
We
sure.
said it on the podcast. But yeah, there's a saying around these parts: "You makes the world takes." And even that I took from somewhere. That's the joke. We're having fun. We're just playing, everybody, but not really, right, Kahai? You really don't like people, right?
yeah, of course.
I like how the students came to live coaching and they're like, you're very docile, you're very like helpful and nice and stuff. We're like, oh, don't, I'm just like, yeah, I'm not mean. I just play one on TV. I just play a mean guy on TV. But who knows? What if this is me? And that's what, Mike, what do you think?
I actually use you as an example because I'm teaching this semester a performance class.
Yeah.
And I use you as an example for all the kids who have stage fright.
Oh, yeah.
Because
so what do you say?
I said, well, a lot of them have seen you play.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Sasha Fierce.
And I just say, look, he treats it like a pro wrestling show. And the guy you see with the ukulele who's snarky with the crowd and this and that, that's the character that showed up.
Yeah.
And that's a character that has no fear and he's going to do whatever. And he can play that. And he can do this. And that character, that guy has no fear. He's there to put on the biggest show he can, with no self-consciousness. The real guy, there's elements of that. There's elements of that person as a good pro wrestling persona should have.
Yeah.
There's elements of that, but it's all pushed out to like ridiculous levels.
Turn up to 11. Yeah.
Does he actually rip on us when the cameras are not rolling? Hell yeah, he does.
But that's what friends do. Right?
That's what friends do. But he takes it to a much higher level. And then it's usually not the friends he's ripping on. It's people screaming Freebird in the bar.
That guy deserves it. That guy deserves it.
Does he actually parade around with a self-bought pro wrestling belt? Maybe.
Those are called trade secrets. I'm not at liberty to discuss.
But
I've used that as an example.
Thank you. But you could also use Beyonce and Sasha Fierce. But I like that you used B as an example of like, see how much of a how do I say an AH that guy is on stage. He's not actually like that. He's just a little bit like that.
I use you because a lot of my kids have actually seen you perform somewhere live.
Okay.
And either at Oasis or at some show like the one you guys did where at the county building, they've seen you perform.
Yeah.
And it makes it more real. As opposed to if I tell that story about Beyonce.
Yeah.
They don't actually see the other half of Beyonce. And I've never seen the other half of Beyonce. So I can't, I don't know.
Yeah,
maybe she's just maybe she says that and she's really like that all the time.
Yeah.
But we hang out outside of work, camera, everything like that. So I know what kind of real person he is. So I know what I can tell that to my kids. I said, no, this is how he chooses to get ready for the show. The lucha mask comes on. the theme music starts playing.
Yeah, that's it.
And he comes out as a different person. And if you're scared, find that person.
Do you know what theme music goes in my head right before I play? There's only one. No, you think. There's one right answer.
And it's a wrestling theme.
Yes.
Oh.
I don't think I've ever said
you have not.
I don't think I've ever revealed this. So there is before every show, for me to get into character, there is a song that plays in my head before I go on.
Has it? Okay. How long have you used this?
Oh, since I first I started watching wrestling again.
Which was 2000 what?
I want to say 2000. Whenever WrestleMania 30 was.
Okay. Because the reason I asked this is because there are certain themes that I actually would associate with the character on stage, but I have to think about whether or not that theme would have actually been
it works for everything. It works for the stage, it works for the show, it works for like a Lower Friday Live Jam, it works for anything. Even if I'm just gonna do like a workshop or something.
Okay. So the first one that comes into my head, but I don't think it is because I don't think he was at WrestleMania 30. Was Kevin Owens.
No.
Okay.
Do you want to know?
Yes, absolutely.
Cult of Personality.
Oh, okay. That also makes a lot of sense.
Cult of Personality. Look it up, guys. Cult of that's the song that plays before I go to any show, before I do any streams or anything like that. That song plays in my head, and then like it switches on that character. And I'm like, oh yeah, Yeah.
Ready.
I am the cult of personality.
See, and it's a weird.
Yeah.
See, I will tell you something honest about that song.
Yeah.
I understand that CM Punk's theme.
Yeah.
And everybody said, and I don't associate that with him.
Oh,
because I grew up.
Listening
I'm a
to-
little older than you, so I
Yeah.
grew up when Living Color hit, and I was a giant fan of that. And so to me, that is always the core point of that song. I thought, but that makes a lot of sense. And I'll tell you a story.
Lyrics wise, it's like, oh yeah, that makes sense for what Aldrine does on stage.
I asked him years ago
Yeah.
to play this guy. I asked him to play at a friend's graduation party. And it was a costume themed graduation.
That's right.
Do you remember
that's right.
this?
Yeah, I did dress up as
And he
CM Punk.
came as CM Punk.
Yeah, that's right. Like full on with like.
He taped his arms up. He had the shirt.
Yeah.
He had the X's on the hands. Everything. Part of me was like wondering, like, how are you gonna play your ukulele with your hands wrapped up like that? But he did.
Yeah, but CM Punk's theme, cult of personality, that's like what gets me in that, like my head, in that headspace of just like, that's, you need to have that kind of, that kind of attitude, like in order to do this, or in order to like, because Aldrine Guerrero like is different from Aldrine, and Aldrine could never. Aldrine Guerrero does things that Aldrine would never do.
I'm just laughing because like next year for like the Yukis, right?
Yeah.
Is like if they play clips from the like different podcasts, is like several podcasts.
Yeah.
Like, oh, if we like this ukulele, it's good. It's like quiet, nice. And then they play ours, and it's like you coming into that song.
Hell yeah! Oh, it's my dream to come out with that
Smoke.
riff.
So I'm gonna put this out there right now. When you win the third one,
Yeah. Oh. Yeah.
it's just like we did.
It's clobbering time.
when we did my sitcom intro a couple weeks ago. We have to, I think.
Yeah. Okay.
I
Okay.
have to.
Got it. So you mean when we win it? Not if.
I said
Not
when.
if.
I said when.
Okay. Good.
I said when.
Good. Just trying to.
When we win the third one,
All right.
we'll have little puffs of like baby powder. Go,
Yeah. It's clobbering time.
we don't
everybody.
actually have real pyro. Sorry. Well, maybe we will by then.
We know somebody who actually is a wrestler, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So we could maybe it's like he comes on and he just his face isn't facing the camera and he's doing stuff and then you
Does the
come on
intro for you.
or like it switches to
Oh, I thought you were just gonna have him beat me up on camera. I thought that's what you're gonna do.
That's a hell of a way to start the podcast.
Yeah.
Welcome to the ukulele.
Dude, I know a couple of wrestlers, one from Japan and one from here. Yeah. And my friend from Japan, I'm like, oh, let's play a wrestle. I'm like, oh, you're actually choking me. This is not fun.
Oh, you thought wrestling was fake?
Yeah, I'm like, oh, I can't breathe.
It's
Like,
gonna be that Dr.
fully
D.
can't
David Schultz
breathe.
more. Does that feel real?
and in Japan, like wrestling is almost shoot wrestling.
Yes.
So, all right. Enough. But yeah, cult of personality, go listen to it. You're like, yeah, that's that. I would get hyped up. Like that's my hype song. If I had a hype song, that's my hype song.
That's a good one.
That's cult of personality. All right. We'll see you folks next time. Join the songwriting challenge. Okay, check out ukuleleunderground.com, ukuleleunderground.com for all your ukulele needs. You can learn how to play ukulele, you can make ukulele friends, you can watch stuff, you can play along, all those ukuleleunderground.com. And sign up for UU Plus to take your ukulele playing to the next level. Check out Mike over at Scotty's Music, right?
Yep.
Where?
In Lihui, find our Walmart on Kauai because there's only one, and look across the street and you'll find my store.
Boom. Are you there? Well, how often are you there? Because what if people specifically want to see you?
And that has actually happened.
Yeah.
I am there Thursdays, Fridays, and Saturdays.
Okay, so basically week because they're not open on Sundays.
We are not open on Sundays, and the rest of the week I am in my classroom.
All right, sounds great. I'll see you guys on Friday for a little Friday Live Jam. Bye, baby. Bye. Love you.